evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose.
Well, welcome to another show of Marketing in the Age of AI. And today we have a great conversation ahead of us with a person who not only is a very experienced marketer and branding professional, but also an investor in companies who are doing marketing and branding and potentially developing tools to help us do our marketing and branding. So I want to welcome Mark Allen Stuart today. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Emmanuel, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And anything else that you want to say? Give us some insight on your background. I know you have a very interesting and a great professional resume, Mark.
Well, I appreciate it. I was fortunate to start my career, and today I'm a business strategist, but I started my career at Procter & Gamble. I had the opportunity to helm the Crest toothpaste brand. So I literally learned category and brand management from the company that created category and brand management.
Yeah.
And as I said, I'm a strategist today, but I've got to admit that every platform that I've built to date has originated from that original brand and category strategy I learned from P&G. I had the opportunity to be an officer in 4 publicly held companies as either chief strategy officer, chief retail officer, or chief marketing officer. The last of those public stints was with a company called Linens of Things that we had an opportunity, myself and 4 other people, I as chief marketing officer, to take the company public. And so 4 years of operating in a public world, and after 14 years of corporate experience, I decided to create a consultancy, and that consultancy was really forged initially on building business strategy from the brand up. And about 7 years ago, I shifted that to building corporate strategy, but I assure you, Emmanuel, it's utilizing those same principles and pillars in wonderful brand management. I just re-engineered it to position how to build a corporate strategy. And then 5 years ago, I started a company called Alchemy Early Stage, and that's where we're assisting early stage first developmental companies to build strategy, get a concept or a product or good or service, build a company around it, and hopefully get them ready to access capital for growth and expansion. So that's us today. I also, kind of what's behind me today, I own a company called Hydraulic Entertainment, and we produce rock and roll music and science fiction films. So that kind of completes the creative part of our operation.
Well, I love that you are able to take those fundamental principles that you learned at P&G and kind of release them into the world for the rest of us to benefit from. So
absolutely.
Thanks for doing that service.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, I wanted just to understand from you about, what you're seeing in terms of marketing and kind of tactical marketing and what you're seeing from the companies that you're working with and what you're doing and guiding people with, and how kind of people are interpreting this avalanche of AI tools and opportunities to market in a new and different way currently.
Sure. Well, there's ideologically, there's going to be this branding civil war. And on the right side, you're going to have the pure creatives, that's the creatives that think really incredible things up. And then on the other side of this intellectual civil war are going to be the machines, the AI folks. So I don't think it's going to be quite that dramatic. And I don't think that Skynet's going to become self-aware and we're all going to perish in a nuclear storm. But what's fascinating to me is that in that polarized world that I just outlined, that's kind of the way the world is trending. It's kind of an either or proposition. So it's either brand first, people first, or machine first, whether that's machine learning, whether it's artificial intelligence to access data, whether it's algorithmic or just data streaming, and building a platform to then create a voice And that voice is what the machine or the artificial intelligence crafts, whether it's copywriting, digital ads, placements, positioning. And that, I'm seeing the world kind of drop in one of those two buckets. And where I think the opportunity lies, and I'm trying to work with several emerging AI business organizations, and we still haven't crafted a term for that yet. You know, I'm kind of, from a macroeconomic standpoint, we're still using terms pre-pandemic terms that we need to really change. We're all waiting for a recession. Well, the recession that would have come in 1999 probably will never come because things have changed too much.
Right.
And in the same way, we're utilizing marketing terms that we probably need to reposition and reconnoit and reset because we are in a different and a great world. But I think that the biggest opportunity that I see is a hybrid of those two poles that I outlined.
Sure.
And that is inevitably the computer and any software component, including artificial intelligence, its intent is to help us make faster, better decisions. But there's predicate associated with that. Yeah. We don't just let the machine, and I utilize that, you know, as an atypical reference to unbelievably smart code. But it's not as if we wait for the machine to ask us what it wants us to work on today, and then it goes and does it itself.
Right.
We're still programming inputs. We're giving parameters. We're giving data. And I think the opportunity in the marketing world, because Emmanuel, don't you think it's ironic when the world of branding is trying to become more human by using machines to do that? That's a paradox.
It is.
Unless, because don't let me sound like I'm a naysayer to artificial intelligence. I love technology. I work with a lot of technology companies, and AI is our present and our future. But I think what we need to be doing as marketers who are including artificial intelligence in the way that we're building strategy and creative platforming, especially from the messaging, the copywriting, and the position point, is we need to think human and humanity first. Mm-hmm. So and rather than just doing a simple X and Y axis, putting information into fields and then allowing AI to output creative or response email or LinkedIn response messages, utilizing some information that it scrapes, we really need to think about a third dimension. And that third dimension is, and I'm going to use an old school word, and half of your audience will remember it, and the other half are going to have to Google it. But it's this concept of psychographic. So it's not just demographic, my gender, my age, my income, but it's what drives my decision-making process.
Right.
And there's been some really kind of interesting terms that were really good and important that have lost their way. Emotional intelligence was really hot 7 years ago. We've kind of forgotten it, and it's unbelievably important. Yeah. And the idea of design thinking, unbelievable platform to originate and drive a business. We've kind of forgotten about that a bit. But in the same way, it's this whole idea of thinking about driving that third axis of humanity to populate our minds as marketers and creatives, and the tools, the machines and the artificial intelligence and the software that we use to craft from that, starting from an origination point of being human first. And that psychographic lifestyle preference, decision-making criteria, what I care about, what I don't like.
Yeah.
Utilize that third axis as data input in an influencer to drive your artificial intelligence, rather than what do they buy, where do they live, how old are they?
Right.
That unidimensional pathway is building a bad reputation for AI because AI will output what we input.
Right.
And if we don't, as marketers, what I say about artificial intelligence is any software tool, it is a tool, not a rule. The minute it becomes a rule, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's why it's polarized. And I started that conversation with the Civil War. It doesn't have to be a rule. It should be a tool. But we need to direct that tool with a humanity first, people first mentality, and then allow it to populate whatever yield fields that it's going to provide for us, the queries that we're asking. It'll populate it from a position of humanity, not just of quantitative data that we construct.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a great concept that you're bringing up, and And I think part of what's happened is that these AI tools have made marketing very accessible for inexperienced people to get into it, right? So they don't have the fundamentals. I studied psychology. That's where I came from, right? And so, we talk psychographics. I'm like, yeah, I love it. Just like if people are gonna change the toothpaste they buy, it's gonna be from a change in their life first, and then that opening happens, right? That's the story I've heard.
And so if there's the micro marketing that can be done, and really one of the things that the digital world has allowed us to do is in a more affordable way micro market, and then the macro market, and there's plus and minuses from both, and there should be a balance of micro and macro if you're a large brand when you look at your marketing mix. But the macroeconomics is very, very expensive, and sometimes it's efficient. Even digitally, it can be inefficient. But a balance of those two things, those two components, are still integral to building why anyone in the world is trying to build a brand. And a brand is an emotional connection to this person that you're trying to help serve or improve their life. A brand is an emotional relationship. And that's why, again, thinking about those two poles, and I don't mean to oversimplify it, but I'm a simple person, that, the left side of we can't let AI enter into our world. And having an entertainment company working with writers and creators and actors, I respect why there was such an uproar last year within the entertainment community, and why there was a strike, because if I'm a writer and you don't need me anymore, that machine put me out of a job, theoretically. I'll come back to that in a second. If Nicolas Cage is becoming very, very vocal about the fact that he's frightened to death that a camera's going to take his image, an audio recorder will take his voice, and they won't need him anymore. And I, again, think of those two poles. There's somewhere in the middle. That where in the middle is the reality that we can infuse humanity in all aspects of artificial intelligence. We set the parameters, and that's what happened last year in the entertainment world. We set the parameters. It's not self-aware. We're the ones that are directing it, and we can direct it in our favor and in our good as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I agree with the just a simple statement. It's a tool. Learn how to use the tool and understand its place in your data stack or in your workflow. And
we're still overtly early in the evolutionary journey of AI and as a branding tool. We're unbelievably early. I put something out on LinkedIn on my LinkedIn page. I did a Google AI search for hydraulic entertainment. And the first part of it was they kind of scraped some data from our website that said we're a creator, producer, and distributor of rock, roll music, and science fiction films. And the paragraph underneath it said, and hydraulic presses are really important in the state of California. Because it went and grabbed some information and put it in there. So we still are really on the early stages of utilizing artificial intelligence as a tool. And Emmanuel, what you said is probably the most poignant position that we all as marketers need to think about. And that is people who aren't marketers are accessing AI tools, and the output is what they believe is quality marketing, positioning, and languaging. And the reality of it is we're not there yet.
Right.
And that person may not understand that we're not there yet because they trust the bot so much that they're just going to say, well, the bot output it, therefore it must be right, and I'm going to use it. That language, and today you can sense what was written by artificial intelligence and what wasn't. And we're still way in the early evolutionary stage. The most fascinating component about AI from an economic standpoint, so this is Mark, the business person and person that assists in getting companies capital ready. There have been a handful, and I'll list a couple, technologies that had unbelievable aspiration and presumption of success that didn't make it. Yeah, I'm old enough, you are nearly old enough to remember that there was going to be a disk about the size of a quarter on your car, and it was going to take solar energy, and that's all the power it needed, and solar energy was the key. There have been trillions of dollars spent on trying to make solar energy efficient, and it hasn't worked yet. Remember a couple of years ago, everyone was going to have a 3D printer on their desk. They were going to be printing replacement pancreases for themselves every day. That didn't happen. Last year, and we really don't hear about it much, there were two of the 5 largest companies on the planet that put $150 billion in virtual reality and virtual augmentation headgear. Right. It wasn't embraced. Now, the difference in those 3 areas was that there was great promise, great investment, and there's a lot of lists. Remember Segway? Everybody was going to be on a Segway.
Sure.
Didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? Two different areas. One, technologically, we haven't gotten there yet. I'm sure we will with solar, but we're just not there. Or consumer demand. Now, the fascinating thing economically about AI is that all of these companies, NVIDIA being the prime example, they're selling in AI software to companies who have an expectation that their consumers will not find them relevant if they don't have the letters A or I next. I mean, literally, there's going to be AI pudding next week. I mean, everything is AI on it. The world, the developers have convinced the world that if you don't have AI on it, you're irrelevant. So all of these companies, why NVIDIA and Intel and all of these AI companies, why are they really the only places that are growing economically and from a stock and an equity standpoint? Because all these companies are investing in it because there's a perceived consumer demand and expectation. You've got to have AI. We do not have a use case for AI yet on a macro basis. Right. It isn't there yet. Well, what's different is it's not like everybody went out and spent $1 trillion on VR hardware waiting for it to happen. Nobody bought it. Well, company that because it's a consumer purchase. This AI now is more of a corporate purchase. Yes, and you can get a chat bot relationship and you pay a monthly fee, but where the big money is coming from right now is corporations buying AI technology, not consumers. And those corporations are buying into it without the use case yet. Right. And why don't we have a use case? Number one, we don't know consumer demand. Number two, we aren't there technically with what AI will be 20 years from now. And everybody says the world of technology is increasing threefold a year. That's the case. That is the truth. But for AI to deliver what we're all anticipating it to deliver, we're really far, far away from that. And we shouldn't expect to rush it because what we're talking about are very complicated trillion executions a second type of calculations. Yeah. And we need to give it a little bit of time to see what it can do to then determine if we have a use case or not.
Well, let's just dig into the use case and what your recommendations are for a company when they're looking at integrating an AI product. I mean, what are you recommending that people do in order to make a good decision about that?
So the first of which is, and it's a really, really great question. The first evaluation point is, what is your ultimate intent for the result of you using the tool? What do you want out of it? That question is very rarely answered because we have this AI omnibus that says, I'm being sold an AI package, I need it. So make sure you have a clear expectation for what you want that AI tool to do. Right. Then validate with your service provider that it can indeed do that.
Good, I like that.
If it can, then we'll move on to the preparation to execution stage. If it can't, be realistic to yourself, to your senior management team, and to your provider that it's just not meeting the need. But if it is meeting the need, then before you buy, take a look at the implementation package. Yep. That implementation package is, if you're going to go and you're going to query a specific target to get specific information, yielding to then create outputs, whether it's creative positioning, digital ads, etc. Look at the questions it asks. Some are algorithmic, ultimately every question is an algorithm, whether it's complicated or not, but look at the algorithmic queries that it's asking. And do you feel comfortable as a business owner and operator that those are the right questions, that once you get the information, you'll have the data necessary to execute your plan? So most people focus on implementation rather than pre-implementation. So focus on the queries. Make sure you're comfortable with, and you have a sense of comfort that because you're going to get answers to the questions you ask.
Right.
Make sure they're the right questions, asked in the right way.
Like it.
Because if you get that, if you ask the wrong questions or ask them the wrong way, then you're going to get inputs, and those inputs are going to be applied, and it's not going to be successful. And then the third piece that I think is probably the for me the most important piece, and I think that it's going to need to come from the user side, from the customer side, rather than the developer side, and that is, if that AI package doesn't have that psychographic third axis, that ability to add some real humanity-driven questions, then either ask your service provider if they can augment or seek another service provider. Do not engage in, and I'm sure I'm hurting a lot of AI developers' feelings, don't engage with an AI platform that doesn't have that third access capability, because that's what's going to create the bridge. Otherwise, we're going to have those poles, and it's okay to have those poles if we have a bridge connecting them, and that bridge can be that third access. And then
I love that. I agree that I kind of say that a lot of this stuff comes out like cardboard, and you're sitting down for dinner and you're eating cardboard. It's not dynamic at all. It has no sustenance.
Right, and it often has correlative, consistent, and accurate data points, which don't necessarily connect with your audience. I'm advising a company, and 2 weeks ago they gave me their demo, and it was a business development prospecting tool, and it asked questions, and the query came back, and it not only was it obvious that a bot wrote it, but there was nothing. It was, hey, Emmanuel, I saw your LinkedIn posting about tomatoes, and tomatoes are really important to me. Well, that really isn't necessarily an engaging way. Emmanuel, with all of the requests you get on LinkedIn, that's really not going to compel you to say, wow, this guy Mark has a point of view that I'm really, really interested in.
Right.
So utilize AI as a data extraction tool, but allow it to have the first draft of a right now, Emmanuel, here's my number one cardinal rule for AI and creative or a digital languaging. Never take what it's giving to you today and distributing it without editing.
Oh, yeah.
You got to edit. You've got to, so assuming it did the intelligence gathering for you, tool, not a rule.
Yeah.
And it assumed that it scraped and grabbed information that was accurate because that audience, that person, that company provided accurate information where it was being scraped.
Yep.
The data that you get back, presume it's correct, then edit it to make it sound like you, your brand, your company. Yeah. Use the intelligence, but that's another way for you to go in and use your own humanity.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It produces C- work, and you've got to take the time in order to imbue it with the humanity and the personality in your brand. Yeah.
Right. That's it. And the reality of it is, and I still do this a lot because I love to learn. That's why I'm in business. I love to learn, and I go out, I go on people's websites, I look for brand presentations, recommendations. And that it does take a lot of time, and that's right now what AI can do for us is that data gathering in an intelligence way, in a postulate-based way. We can give parameters. It can pull back the data that in seconds that would have taken us an hour to do. That is an unbelievably value-added tool. But then we can't just cut and paste, which are what those people that you referenced that aren't marketers that are using marketing tools to build their. Just yesterday, 5 minutes ago, I built an ad campaign. I built an email. Well, you did, but you just took first generation data off of the tool and you didn't edit it or make it, as you say, your brand, your voice, your position. Yeah. So I think it can be a great tool today. And again, what's a computer supposed to do? Help us make faster, better decisions. AI can do that, but we can't. That's the beginning of the creative pathway, not the end of it.
Yeah, well, I love it. Well, Mark, I don't want to, but I have to wrap this up because I think you and I could have this conversation all day long, and I think we're pretty aligned with the idea that it's a great innovation. We need to have very clear outcomes for it, and we need to make sure that we have the human touch into every piece of creative that it develops. And I'm excited about where it's going to go over the next 5 years. Right? It's exciting. And I appreciate your time. And I just want you to have a second here to let people know how they can get in touch with you if they want to have a conversation with you.
Sure. And I just want to kind of, I said it indirectly, I didn't say it directly. We're waiting for AI to help us. Let's help AI help us.
Right. Yeah.
And so Mark Allen Stuart, our company is, we have a couple of companies, the Stuart Group, Alchemy Early Stage, and hydraulic-entertainment.com. Best way, you can either access Mark Allen Stuart on LinkedIn, there's just one of me, or Mark at Stuart Group Consulting, Stuart, groupconsulting.com. We love to have conversations with experienced in-place business owners and operators, as well as early stage businesses. We're committed to continual improvement. We love to assist and proffer and help educate the community. We're huge believers in technology and AI, but as a tool, not a rule.
All right, Mark. Well, it's been a great conversation, and I very much appreciate your time and insight.
Emmanuel, I always love our interaction. You do a fantastic job, and thanks for having me today.
All right. You have a great week.
You too.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.